welcome to Coffee with Joy. I'm your favorite host, Joy, with Coffee with Joy Talk Show and Podcast. I am so excited to have my guest, Cleashay, as we talk about finances and entrepreneurship and so much more. She's going to give us a mouthful and so much other things that I don't want to get into it. I want you all to hear. And please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. And if you do have any questions, please make sure that you leave them in the comment section, for we know that Cleashay will love to hear. So after these messages, we're going to hear from my guest, Cleashay. Fear. Advertise your business on our podcast. Connect with us, the Coffee with Joy Talk Show podcast, and let's grow together. Email us and we Welcome back to Coffee with Joy. Now I'm going to bring my guest, Cleashay, on. Hey, Cleashay.
Hi.
Yes, thank you so much for being on Coffee with Joy. Now, right before we get in, can you tell people a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to jump right into our conversation.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I am Cleashay China-Sutton. I am a serial entrepreneur here based out of our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. I own multiple entities. As I mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I have a salon and day spa that I've owned for 27 years now. I also have a home essentials line, all things home, aromatherapy for your home, knickknacks for your home, and they're curated from around the world. So I travel to find intricacies, cute stuff, all things cute for your home. And then my baby, my passion, my purpose is my nonprofit organization, Redefine Resilience, which is a lifestyle development program for economically disadvantaged youth in the DMV area.
Oh, such a mouthful, such a mouthful. We know you are busy. So thank you again for being on with Coffee with Joy.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. So I know there's so many things we could touch on, right? But we want to talk about the finance as far as entrepreneurship, helping, getting into kids, right? And I know you and I had a conversation about, working with the youth and really understand how finances work, making sure that they don't come to an example in life where they have to make a strong decision that may work or may not work against. Now, how do you work with the youth who want to be in entrepreneurship as well as finances? How does that all encompass with you?
So we have our program is lifestyle development. So we touch on several areas. Financial literacy is one of them. Career pathways or post-secondary education is another part. Sometimes, that looks like actually just defining what the children want to, and I'm not going to call it, they're my babies, what my babies. I feel like I'm like a mom of 100 kids, 100 young adults. So I have several personalities that I'm dealing with, but, finding out what their niches are earlier, the earlier the better, and helping them to really figure that out so they won't kind of jump across like all over the place, and then understanding what that looks like as far as their lifestyle, what type of developing strategies and techniques to create the foundation of what they like, what they want their life to look like. What does that look like 5 years from now? What do they want from 10 years from now? And then teaching, and I won't say teaching, but just instilling core values as it relates to how we, our relationship with money, how we handle money, removing the scarcity of money, and just helping them to navigate through the pathways of which direction they want to go in with their lives, whether that's college, whether that is entrepreneurship, whether that's technical, gaining a technical skill, and then guiding them, creating that pathway for what they want their lives to look like, and then creating the creating a curriculum that works specifically for them, and that focuses on helping them with their financials to get them to that place.
Now, in all of that, we know as much as, yes, we wanted to be all ice cream and berries, what has been like the overall problem that you see once you go through and you strategize or, probably do like a diagnostic example or questionnaire? What do you find the biggest problem with the youth that not understanding finances or not knowing about money? What has been like the overall issue with, just in within your nonprofit?
The overall, I would say the overall arching challenge is um, the myths around money,
Mhm.
the facade of social media,
Mm.
um, that makes entrepreneurship. Well, and I don't even know if you know this, but there's rarely anyone that is quote unquote um, glorifying working a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
right? So the entrepreneurship is displayed on social media, which across the board, our youth are getting caught up in a facade. Like, it's not what's reality. So that's what I would say the commonalities are across the board, right?
Mm.
Is them not, and then I would also say um just not having the foundation, like from home or from their environment of what they're being raised in. um,
Yeah.
that as well, considering our youth are from lower income areas. They don't have that. Like, they are the first of their families that are even considering um, entrepreneurship or post-secondary education.
Wow. And
Mhm.
I could see that being a primary issue where, with social media give this big facade and
Yeah.
how to get the money, right?
Mhm.
Not knowing that you have to work for the money. And then on top
Yeah.
of it, I remember, excuse me, I remember asking one of my students and saying, hey, just overall, what do you want to be when you grow up? One student said, hey, I want to be a YouTuber. We present that, hey, money is easy. You could get it, you can obtain it, but
Mhm.
you may be able to obtain it, but how do you operate it? How do you make it work for you? How do you take that finances and turn around? And I know that becomes the lack because mom in the household don't know how to take
Yeah.
that funds and really make it grow. They
Absolutely.
just get that money, and social media really makes really add a dent into our youth
Absolutely.
into getting it,
Mhm.
and like you
Mhm.
said, that 9 to 5 is not something that they
It's
really
not
look forward
something.
to,
It's
and it's
not.
not. Mhm.
Yeah. And social media isn't showing the behind the scenes. They're not showing, um, yeah, you may, in entrepreneurship, you can have an, a great quarter, but then the following quarter, you can make not $1. So, we try to um, create strategies so that they're understanding how you
Mhm.
work with that first quarter or that good quarter, and how you make that stretch throughout throughout the times where you won't have such lucrative months or lucrative
Mhm.
quarters. um, but yeah, it's definitely a challenge. One thing I can say is that I believe there is a slight shift happening where the youth aren't, a small percentage or a percentage of them aren't really like focused on more of the tangible items.
Yeah.
That has changed a little bit. I've seen that over the years, maybe like coming out of the pandemic more so,
Mhm. Yeah.
where they're more so focused on the longevity a little.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say it's better than it was previously, right?
Mhm.
So then they have a different approach, and they have a different outlook on saving their money and investing. We also really focus on the investment component and what that looks like for them. So, learning about ETFs, stocks, bonds, learning about, setting up, having life insurance, and how to use life insurance as a tool for building wealth.
Yeah.
Being able to use that for a savings, in a sense where you can use it towards your business goals, or working capital for your companies. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would say
And what is
that's,
like the age range that you normally work with?
we start as early as 14. We try to catch them in middle school primarily, and then up to like 21.
Okay. So
Yeah.
like if a parent were to watch this and look and say, wow, I need my child is 13 and I need her or him to really get, be connected. How would they be able to get connected into like what is the opening? Like what does the curriculum look like? So you may have some parents who are financial savvy, who have some type of literacy, but probably can't get to their child. So how would they be able to get connected, and what does that curriculum look like at the beginning for all who comes into your program?
So we have cohorts are 12 weeks,
Okay.
and we have 2 hours per week. So, and they're in the evening. So we try to work around the kids' schedules. So whether that's after school activities or sometimes we even host workshops on the weekends.
Hmm.
And you can get in touch with us by just going to our website at redefineresilience.com and it's contact us and let us know what you're interested in. And that's the way you'll get in touch with us. But yeah, it's 12 weeks. We make it very fun, really interactive, real life scenarios. Um, and yeah, that's
I just wish that they had it like in elementary. I wish it
elementary.
really, yeah,
Absolutely.
I wish
Yes.
we could start from there, elementary, because they want, but don't understand the value of money. They don't
Mhm.
understand that, hey, how it works, or even to intertwine,
Mhm.
especially not to make this a race thing or anything, but we know that when we dealing with funds, you know, you look rich, but you're really poor. You look
Yes.
poor when you're really rich. We
Yes.
see that. It's like we have a status that we have to look up to, not knowing that you really, a car is a car.
A
You
car
don't
is a
need
car.
yeah,
Absolutely.
you don't need a Bugatti versus over a Kia. They do the
Exactly.
same thing.
It does the same thing, getting you from point A to point B,
Yes,
honestly.
just
But
to understand that.
the difference
Mhm,
in as far as culturally based wise,
mhm.
it's like the generations before us and the generations before, our children today.
Yes.
Um, we don't really educate them. We teach them pretty much them with what we have, the best that we have, right? So one of the differences, and I just learned this most recently with another, I think it's a podcast or something. I think Earning Your Leisure, I believe,
Mhm.
but it was a representative on there or a guest that mentioned she was a banker for, I want to say maybe Bank of America or Wells Fargo, and
Okay.
that small business banking. And she actually has her own practice now where she's helping support, minorities with getting funding, because she was saying how working in her position with the bank, how she had to turn away so many of us. Um,
Mm.
and she said, but the difference that she noticed, and I can totally understand this, is when other cultures would come in for small business banking, or, to apply for a loan or seeking venture capital, they would
Mhm.
bring their children with them.
Yeah.
And we don't do that, I mean, I'm like, I can count on maybe one hand how many times I've actually physically went to the bank with my mom, or my dad or my parents. And even if I did, I had to sit in the car, you know? So it's not like you bring the kids in the bank with you and they're actually sitting in the office watching the transaction.
Yeah.
And that right there is instilling in them at a very young age, like what banking even looks like, we didn't learn how to about checks and balances or maybe to high school or something,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
And
yeah,
that's sad.
definitely teaching them at a very very young age is key. And I
Yeah.
do believe that starting it as early as elementary school, it's never too early,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I know if I was a curriculum specialist, I surely would like to embed that, because
Mhm.
they need to understand just the value and how to work. Even if we were to have a school store,
Mhm.
why is it important? And then, to have some type of culminating project, keep it very on their level. So when they do get to middle and high school,
Mhm.
it's not foreign to them. They understand that. And as the point that you made where, we don't go into the bank with our parents, I remember my best friend said that, as soon as I have my kid, I'm going to make sure that my child flies everywhere because, flying, you see them, they have their babies, right?
Yes.
And they have them, the babies on babies. We talking
Yes.
about newborn,
Yes.
they're there, they're going places. You hear me? And with
Absolutely.
us, you don't see that.
You do
We
not.
say, oh no, they're going to get sick. Oh, we always have a rhyme and reason.
Absolutely.
They It's like teaching them that the love, no matter what, they're in the stroller, they're on the sack, they're on the
Yep.
side, they're there. So that's in the same sense, like you have to bring them around because even though they may not understand, but they're going to understand as they get older. Like my
They
parents
will.
took me around. So now that my goddaughter is 7 years old, she's been to 3 continents,
Mm-hmm.
several countries, and she's like a world traveler. I think
Yep.
she traveled more than me, and I'm a little upset about that. So I got to
Yeah.
fix it.
She
Yeah.
has more stamps on her passport than you
She
do,
do.
right?
Yeah, she do. Yeah, yeah, she do. So I'm a little upset now that I'm talking about it. But yes, she made sure that if nothing else, my daughter's going to travel.
Yep.
And it really embraces her conversation, really makes her more outgoing. I just see the difference. And not to say she didn't have that, but we're able to have conversations. We're able to talk about the maps. We're able to talk about different places, water, and even hear her say things like, "Oh, that's so 1900." Girl, please.
And she's 7 years old.
She's 7 years old. Talking about that's on 1900. Sis, pipe down. Literally. So just to hear that, you never know just by seeing how they increases so much. So as you stated that we don't go into the bank with our parents, or we sit to the side, but we don't see the transaction for whatever reason. Now,
Yep.
now you've been doing this for a while. So with the kids and with parents, what are like probably you can name probably a couple or one, don't matter. Like what myth do you see that's holding us back for us not to break this cycle? We in 2025 and we're still bringing things so way back into us. What is some myth that you hear or that you believe that's hindering us? And the reason I say us because
It's
without a
us.
foundation, we don't
Yes.
have anything.
I think the myths, um I get a lot, like I think the myth is the unknown, right?
Mhm.
So you would say, well, I would get your kids to say, well, I can't afford that, or I can't do that, or and and I believe that has to come. They're getting that from somewhere, right? And I think removing that from the verbiage of I can't and replacing that with how can I?
Mhm.
And so I'm pretty sure that they may hear it or they may see that, and it may not necessarily, and the verbiage can look very well as if we can't do that right now, or you can't have that right now, but putting or showing them how you can have it like later on, right?
Mhm.
So when you have this this notion in your mind at a very young age that you can't, and then as a result of money, then you go in with your mindset of this requires money, unknowing how much money, what it looks like, and I find that even some of our graduates, or yeah, our participants that are done with the program, they're older now, they're coming out of college, they're in their 20s, and most of them are doing really, really well. But I do find like some of them, like I can't afford um, an apartment by myself right now, or I can't purchase a home. And it's like, but why? What is the why? And because have you even explored the options? And that's the issue. Like, yeah. And then the, I would say that a lot of they don't want to do the work either,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's a lot of work, right? So when you have to do some deep diving and researching and doing stepping out of your comfort zone, so having a face-to-face conversation, which now everything is through the PDA devices, or they don't want to pick up the phone, or so having a conversation with someone who's already travel that road that you're trying to go there. They don't
Mhm.
want to do it,
Mm.
So I think that's something that's holding us back as well.
Wow. And
Yeah.
and just as I seen on I think it's Black Millionaire, where Black Millionaire, I believe it's Black Millionaire, where they did the statistics have shown that someone who works 40 hours cannot afford a 2-bedroom apartment nowhere in the United States. So
Wow.
it's like, and as well as Black Millionaire, that we're the highest educated individuals, but we are unable to pay for anything. And it's like,
Wow.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And it makes so much sense. Like, you have a degree, even to hear women or men who have doctor degrees barely could pay bills, or, just doing things. And it's like, wow, here I
Yeah.
am fighting for the degree, finish the degree, and
Fighting,
just to
finishing,
get
going back, getting more.
$2. And see, and in turns, then when you have students to 20,
Can you hear my dog? I'm
just
sorry.
a little, but it's okay, Cliche. I promise you, it's
Okay.
it's real life. It's real life. Sometimes some people are like, yes, the dog's right there. You'd be surprised. Some people, the dog will get more likes, more conversation than what we get. It don't even bother.
Okay,
It's fine.
okay, because she can get a little rambunctious, and that's what she's doing. She see all the lights in my office, and she's like, "Wait a minute, my blanket isn't in there."
I know, right? No, you're totally fine. And it's kind of hard to even try to convey to students, hey, I need you to work on this financial, how to understand, when they see my life is hard. I need the money to move forward. I know about the investment. I know, but now it's time for the application. You got to
Yes,
apply it. And
yes,
when, and it's a mental thing too,
it is.
once they go through your program, it's like the mental thing.
Mhm.
What they see, sometimes our eyes could really ruin our future without
Absolutely.
us staying focused and really putting the path forward, knowing that I got all this training, I got the understanding, but I got to apply it. And sometimes that's mind over matter. I got to
Yes.
force myself to get forward. So it's kind of hard now to even read these statistics, to
Mhm.
even see that here we are, we're trying to break through. You tell your students, hey, we need you to go to college, you need to do this. And they do it, and they still like a half a paycheck, if not
Yes.
a
Yes.
full paycheck away from being homeless or losing it all. But
Yes.
that's just part of the territory.
Yes.
And that's just the real conversations we have to deal with.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
now, and I know you do have like your the past cohort come back and talk to your current cohort, just to share their trials and tribulations, as well as to explain like how did it help, or how they're able to muster through. Because I know that would definitely give the current cohort life to know, okay, I'm not in this alone.
Right.
It's
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I would say the participants, most of them that come back, and sometimes I may pair them like with the mentor mentee type of thing,
Mhm.
or put them together. And most of them are more appreciative of the life skills in general,
Mhm.
because just with learning how to figure things out, that has been really the foundation to help them through their financial paths.
Mhm.
And all of them, I must say, they're go hard workers. Like
That's good.
they're actually really, positive in society, and they don't mind working.
Right.
But at one moment, um, coming into the program, I have had some, and then you do have, like, we do have participants that it's just not there,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we just have to pray for the best.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just not there. Some of them are in really dark places, and it requires more than what we can offer to get them out of those spaces. um,
Mhm. Yeah, so those are like the downside to it. That
yeah, but then you have some that's like they're determined to change the narrative. They're going to change it, and they're not going to be like their parents or what they came from, or what statistics are has determined
Mm,
would be the outcome for them. And those are the ones that they're going to school, they're working 2 jobs, they're in pilot programs. So yeah.
mm.
Mhm.
Okay, so after this messages, we're going to continue to talk to my guest, Cliche. I know you guys hear the dog in the background. Yes, we love the fur babies. They're the best. They make the best noise. Fur babies are great. So please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. And please make sure if you would like to patronize our company, please make sure you follow the QR codes that's coming towards the end. Any amount would do. So after these messages, we're going to continue to talk to my guest Cleashay as we continue to talk about how the youth and financial is working successfully. Have officially stepped into the second quarter of the year, and this is our moment to refocus, recharge, and recommit. So you, too, could join Coffee with Joy show and get in your energy and motivation. Welcome back to Coffee with Joy. I'm going to bring my guest Cleashay back on. Hey, Cleashay. We had such a great conversation before we left. Now, with the 12 weeks, what has been like your ups and downs in perfecting it to see that, okay, this is a great turnaround? And do you and what is your continued like your longevity? Do you continue to see yourself branching out to schools or recreational centers, or how do you go about getting those students to make sure that your cohort is in the continuum?
So I do plan on branching out into schools, and right now we work with other nonprofit organizations. We also work, like I have some companies, tutoring companies. So we work with a few tutors that have their students that will benefit from the program.
Now what is the end goal? Or are you going to continue with the end goal? And do you work out with schools or any other, like you stated before, nonprofit organizations? Like, how do you go about getting your kids and making sure that the program continues successfully?
Right. Okay. So yeah, the end goal actually for the participants is actually when they complete our program is to assure that they have a direct career pathway, and whether that's, like I said, entrepreneurship, whether it's going to college or picking up a trade, and that they're really walking in their purpose when they're completed with the program, right? And then also having the foundational tools to create whatever. So whether that's, we want to make sure that they have a checking and a savings account. We want them to understand and have a clearer direction of what they want to do as far as investments. We try to set like a goal, and whether it's it's based on the individual. Sometimes they have unrealistic expectations for 12 weeks, but we do try to set a standard. If we work on like $500, and what does that look like? And for some of the girls, it's kind of like, okay, now you can't get your nails done this week, like, you know what I mean? Or the guys with their sneakers. So just teaching them the value and the rewards of sacrificing. For the larger purpose, for the larger goal. Right. And then, yes, I do. I'm working on partnering with some of our school districts to try and get our program within the schools. So we are working on a blended learning. So there is a blended learning curriculum for both the teachers and the students that can be positioned into our school districts, and then also building with some of our youth development programs for the religious churches or the religious youth programs. So that's the long-term goal.
Oh, that's good, because, and of course, all children need it, point blank, hands down. No matter your background, you need it. So I think that's marvelous. Now, in the cohort, do you all have like particular guests that come and talk to the kids?
We do.
And part of, like, what does like one average day look like, as far as like if parents were to look, and again, they wanted their child to be part of this, right? But they're trying to get an understanding, like a feel from the organizer, the creator, with the, like, what's like the day to day? How does those 2 hours work within for the next 12 weeks?
So when we first come in, we do, we do our intake to see like exactly where the students are. And that once we go through that, it's kind of like an orientation period. So for the
Mhm.
first week, for the 2 days of that week and the 2 hours, it's pretty much orientation, getting to know each other. We also do a lot of breakouts so that they can kind of get to know one another. Um, I like the smaller groups. We don't take more, I think, more than 12 kids at one
Okay.
time. But I really like the smaller ones because we have
Mm.
more of we have more of that one-on-one with them.
Mhm.
And then we start to work on just the basics of understanding money and what does that look like, what does that mean to them, what is their relationship with money, what is their history, what have they seen,
Mhm.
how does you know and then we'll give them a day in the life of their lives.
Mhm.
What does that look like, and we'll give them, so in a sense it's kind of monopoly-ish,
Yeah.
but in real life,
Yeah.
um and so each week we're building on that, and then we kind of go through what their likes and dislikes are, what their
Mhm.
path, what their passion, what their desires are, and then creating um creating a program that will work for them specifically,
Mhm.
right? So if they're like, I want to do, I want to open a braiding salon. So then we're
Mhm.
starting to create a program around what does that look like for you, right?
Mhm.
So you say, well, I want to live in California. I want to be on the beach, and I want to have a braiding salon. So realistically, what does that look like? You
Yeah.
want to live in California, but is there even a market in California for braids?
You're right.
So just breaking it down to those basic understanding the demographics, understanding what the cost of living is in California.
Mhm. Yeah.
Then, if you're in the DMV area, are we charging, our price points? Are they the same in California? What part of California?
Mhm.
So just understanding and helping them to get a clear picture, because once you actually break it down that way, and then they'll start to think, their wheels will get to going,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, well, maybe I need to do braids and offer another service as well. So
Yeah.
maybe I need to do,
Yeah.
braids and natural hair care to offset the living in California.
Mm.
So towards the end of the program, so yeah, once your child come in, we do the orientation, we do the intake, we do the mixers so they can get to know each other. Try to get them as comfortable as we possibly can. Generally, after like the second or third session, they're pretty good to go for the
Okay.
most part. Yeah,
Well, that's good. The only reason why, because I know for a fact that a lot of parents don't know how to have that conversation, right? Some
yeah,
parents are afraid to have that conversation. Finances are scared. And like I said, on top of the piece is where some kids are or adults are faced with finances when situation happens.
absolutely.
And to go through this really heightens and really have the child memory just to connect. I remember as a child growing up, as much as I'll tell this story, but I guess I will to connect. I was like, clean up the room, clean up the room. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. But it wasn't until when I went to college and I had a roommate. It was like the plug was there, connect. Now I'm OCD.
Hmm.
Now I'm OCD. So it's in turn like they hear you, they see it, they actually go through it. And then when life plays itself correctly, when God ordained it, it's like, wow, they eureka, I get it. So, and because what you doing, of course, putting that seed and little by little is being watered. So I know for a fact that they're going to grow it up. They're going to grow up to know they're going to obtain and grab something because
Yeah,
sad to say, Black parents don't like to have that conversation because of their own fear, and they don't know how to have that. They don't know what door to get in. They
mhm.
just give the money, the child goes, or not explaining that I want McDonald's money. I want McDonald's. I want to eat. I want to eat McDonald's, not knowing that
Yes.
we have food and be able to teach how to cook. And
Mhm.
in those conversations, so many small little nuance that
Small
build,
little nuances,
yeah,
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
builds.
And it's so my son actually is 24, and then my
Mhm.
godson is 23. They've been like together since they were babies.
Right.
And like, I don't allow them to bring in outside, I call it outside food, into the house. I'm like, it's food in here to cook, right? So now they're really conscious about that. And they're calling like what's to cook versus, coming in with Chick-fil-A or Wendy's or something like that. Um, and now they see now, but my son is now, and he lives in Georgia. So
Mm-hmm.
now that he's living on his own, he really understands,
Yeah.
And I'm like, you go to a restaurant and you're spending $60 to eat for one day. You can go to the market. So he's like, Mom. So now he's calling me from the market, like, Mom, I'm getting this, and what do I need to get to make with that? And he's eating for a week. You know what I mean? So he gets it. But yeah, like you said, some parents don't want to have those conversations. And even in like, I have from friends and sisters who they're more of a like being, they want to be more of their child's friend versus a parent. And I feel like you can have a happy medium there, but you're going to always have to, the parent is going to always have to be a little bit above, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
um
totally agree.
and like, honestly, like, I'm gonna tell you what's right,
Yeah.
right, whether you want to hear it or not. um
Yeah.
and like, now, even with my son, he's like barking because he has to pay for life insurance now, and I'm like, you're grown, like,
Yeah.
this is a grown up, or this is adult responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he, it took him a few months just to understand, why do I even need it at this moment, right?
Yeah.
And then when I broke down actually what that looks like for his future and for his children or his family, when he decides, like, it's not about you today, right? And then I'll have to get really, get really biblical on him. I'm like, well, do you think that God and gave us his, his son? What do you think? Do you think that he was thinking about today, that day? He's like, oh, Mom,
Sorry, saying, "Oh my goodness."
right,
Oh.
like, you're just going too far with this. But it's having those difficult conversations. But in the climate that we're living in today, it's hard, because we as parents are really struggling
Mm-hmm.
to manage on our own, right? So to manage on our own, and then instill in the children what they need, and the fostering that we need, it's really hard to balance the two, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but
Wow.
it's necessary, like, it has to be done.
Now, I don't know if you doing it, but have you ever had workshop with, like, with parents, just to have those conversations to help, to seem to buffer, to make sure that is we're helping the child or children, but we want to make sure that the household is being helped. Have you all had a conversation with parents or
So I
workshop?
have conversations with parents just based on what we're doing with the children.
Okay.
But we haven't had workshops
Okay.
where, but I am hosting a workshop. It's actually a lunch and legacy workshop,
Okay.
but it's for legacy building
Mm.
for adults.
Oh,
And it's just, putting everything in place, preparing for the next, and the having the tough conversations that we don't want to talk about,
yeah.
about death, about family, about estates, about
Yeah.
belongings, about, medical directives,
Yeah.
about, like, all of the stuff that we do not talk about. And unfortunately, these conversations aren't had until something happens. Unfortunately.
Always.
Mhm.
Always.
Yeah,
Especially with us. Always.
always.
Always, always. See, and then when you talk about it, it's like, really? Are we talking about that now? Like you stated with your son, like, do we have to do that? Sometimes, yes, we gotta sow, and
Mhm,
our reaping may not come for another 10 years, but
mhm.
we need to sow now in order so when it's time to reap, we can get the benefits. Because again, you're expecting the flowers, not weed. But again, it's a mind shift, it's a mind understanding, and there's so many layers to it, right? But again, the only way to attack it, we have to talk about it, we have to break it down, and then continue to attack it, break it down, understand and apply it. It's a whole shift. And I think quite a few people just in general don't want
Yep.
to talk about when it comes to money, the hardcore cash.
The hardcore, the
Mhm.
hardcore conversations, the
Yes.
assistant living, the just all of the things. All of the
Everything.
things. So I am hosting in the fall, and I will get you that information, and it
Please
will be
do.
a luncheon legacy uh,
Yeah.
workshop, and we're just going to dive in and get it
Mm,
done.
that's
Prayerfully.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I know, you are 360 woman, you do multiple things. But what keeps Cliche going? Life has its way of happening. No one's exempt for problems. No one, from the richest to the poorest, no one is exempt for problem. What keeps Cliche going as far as like a prayer, scripture? What keeps Cliche going in order to do the things that she loves no matter what? Mhm.
Well, God keeps me going.
Amen.
God keeps me going and coming. I'm coming and going. Okay. Um, the scripture, I think it's Psalms 46. God is within her, she will not fall.
Hmm.
Um, and just staying like really, really spiritually grounded.
Yeah.
That's it,
Hmm.
and even when, it comes to my financials or my family financials, like I don't have it all figured out. I,
Yeah.
I don't, I know a lot, but there's still a lot more that I'm learning
Right.
daily. But I know to keep the wheels going and to keep my engine fueled, it's only God.
Hmm.
That's it. Like that's it. And just trusting and believing in him and knowing that I am here to service and serve him.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me going.
Amen. Amen. Yes. Amen. Amen. Because we know life is going to keep lifing.
And it doesn't it's like, and like the more, like the older I get, even by the day, I find I feel like the closer I get to him, the better I am to understand.
Yeah.
So a lot of things don't impact me the way that they used to, right? Because
Okay.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I know what this is about. I know, and it's helped drastically. And I'm like, this is it. Like it's him. It's
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Even when I'm looking at like my financials and I'm going over my financials with my accounting, and I'm going over stuff with like my life coach, my therapist, and they're like, "How are you doing all this?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, "It's God." Because honestly,
Praise the God.
I don't know what to tell you. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
what to say. Like I can't
Yeah.
even outline. Well, I'm doing this to get that, and I'm doing
Yeah.
this, and this is making that happen, and I'm doing this. I don't honestly. I can't tell you
Yeah.
other than my higher power.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And you're doing it. Let me tell you, you're doing it. Of course.
Thank
Thank you so much, Cliche, for being on Coffee with Joy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Please.
you for having me.
Of course. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy on all social media. And please make sure if you have a question or if you know of a child, someone between the ages of 14 and 21, and you all would like to be in the program, please make sure that you leave your information below. For we know that if Cliche sees it, she will definitely reach out, or you can reach out to her website when the information is, you see the information below. Because again, money, we all need to know about money. It's best to know now instead of waiting until circumstances. So please, if you would like to patronize our company, please make sure that you follow the QR codes. Any amount would do. And we love to have your comments, your questions, your thoughts. Please do share them below in the comment section. And as always, if it's a weekday or weekend, it is Coffee with Joy. Until then, you all live life on purpose, and see you all soon.